What we found is that business terms are really hard for social entrepreneurs. That is, when you say value proposition, right? Someone who's been involved in the for-profit sphere has a little bit more of a concept of what that is. In the nonprofit sphere, it's very hard to express what that is, right? We talk about market context, or we talk about, so what we did is we realized that the problem is that we're not going to send people to business school for 2 years to figure it out, or to nonprofit management school at Wagner or what have you. So what we try to do is to frame it in a different way in things that they're already used to. And so what we use is the approach of the story of the people of Israel leaving Egypt, from Egypt to the Promised Land. And this particular lesson frames all of that, all the story that we're going to be telling over the course of the workshops to give them the tools to be able to operate on specifically this phase of their development. Today we're talking about inspiration. We're talking about taking that small idea that they had and working with them through divergence to get to a place where they have a whole list of options, of possible permutations that they can then converge down on a business model. This happens in January and February. Right? So the narrative model that we're using for this comes from a quote from Michael Walzer. Michael Walzer is a political theorist who is at Princeton's Institute for Advanced Study. He wrote a wonderful book called Exodus and Revolution. In it he writes this quote, which is, wherever you are, it's probably Egypt. There's a better place, and that's the Promised Land. And there's only one way to get there. It's by joining together and marching. Right? At a very fundamental level, he's talking about something that's true in almost every social situation. That is, on a basic level, wherever you are, there are imperfections. And those imperfections beget opportunities. That means that there's a better place. There's a place where we increase value in the world. And that place is a Promised Land. But to get there, you have to motivate people to move, to become customers, to become volunteers, to become board members, to become donors. You need to get them to work with you in order to move from this term. And so we break this down into 3 different elements that are very important when you're starting to think about how you position your venture. The first one, Egypt, is your market context. That's the market in which you're operating. The second one, the Promised Land, is the bottom line, the double. That is the impact that you want to have on the world socially and on the venture financially. And then the way to get people to the Promised Land, what motivates them to march, well, that's the value proposition. That's the value you're proposing that they will receive if they join you, either as volunteers or as board members or what have you, right? The value that they get from participating in your venture. And what we do is we tell them that before they start off on their journey, before they decide that the idea that they have is the right idea, first they have to think a little bit about the market context, right? Now, one of the fascinating things about Egypt, when you're talking about Egypt as a narrative place, especially when you're reading about it in the text and in the Tanakh and the Jewish tradition, is that Egypt isn't all bad. There's, let's put it this way. You guys know the Bible probably better than I do, right? So when the people of Israel are leaving Egypt with Moses, are they going willingfully the whole time? Generally not, right? Every once in a while they say, why'd you take us out? We were doing well. We had the flesh pots, we had the garlics, we had the leeks. Why'd you take us out? The reason for that is the same as the reason in almost any kind of market context. That is, people are used to living the lives that they're used to living. And so if you're suggesting that you need to have a Bible yoga class, people are okay with just yoga. They don't need to have anything else. So what you have to figure out is what's the little imperfection that you might be able to capitalize upon. They do yoga, but they don't have time for adult Jewish education. Well, here you have a 2-in-1, and all of a sudden you're providing additional value, right? So being able to find that, and why are you doing that on a basic level, which is the bottom line, the Promised Land, because you think that there aren't enough opportunities for adult Jewish education? Well, maybe there are other ways of doing it, right? So being able to address this and to have a conversation with you about why it is that they're doing what they're doing is going to be a very, very helpful thing for them. And that's this first segment. During this first segment, they're working on a basic level. Their assignment is on the basic element to express to you and express to the world why their idea needs to exist in this world, who is going to be part of making this happen, and what it is that these people need. What's the value that they're going to get out of it? And so they're going to be giving you a deliverable which is either, it's less than one written page or 3 minutes of audio visual that's supposed to express that. And you're going to be receiving this deliverable, you're going to be reviewing it, and then you're going to tell them what you think. Now, I'll give you a case study for this, and it's Matt Barr. Matt Barr is a guy that, his background is that he was a musician in Iowa. He was a rapper, actually called it folk rap. He was into folk music and hip hop, and he put it together with the folk rap. He came to New York thinking that he was going to become a rock star, and he didn't. And so he found a job first doing SAT prep and then teaching at a local Jewish school. The way that he was able to get kids to shut up, because unfortunately it's very hard to get kids to pay attention when it comes to supplementary Jewish education, was he told them that if they listened to the lesson, at the end he'd rap for them. And then by the next time that he came in, they wouldn't shut up until he rapped for them. So he had to rap for them, and then they'd keep on wanting to rap more, right? So he said, well, wouldn't it be a great idea if I just had Bible raps for them? And then he said, wait a second, I can sell this, right? So he wanted to create an album, and that way teachers could, sell to their kids Bible raps, right? Well, when he came in, he had that idea to create an album for Bible raps. For us, the question was, all right, well, that's nice, but there are a whole lot of challenges here. First of all, why is someone going to buy your album? But second of all, what are you actually trying to do in this world? Are you trying to sell albums, or are you trying to transform the way that Jewish education engages the next generation? And he said, huh. And he thought about it for a little bit and said, you know what, I'm actually more interested in the engagement part because I saw how hard it is to be a teacher than I am in selling the albums. And that moment, that kind of aha moment of, wait a second, the idea I came in with might not be exactly have the impact that I want to have in this world is what we're trying to get here. We're trying to get someone to come in and say, I really want to do Bible yoga. And you say, wait a second, why do you want to do Bible yoga? What do you want to achieve in this world? Right? Do you want to have just a once-a-week class in which you have 10 people sign up and pay you, and you're a yoga instructor that includes Bible? Or do you want to do adult Jewish education? Do you want to transform the way that people relate to their bodies in Judaism? What's the larger element here? What's that larger impact that you want to have? What's the context in which you're operating that impact can occur? And then who are the people that you're actually going to be selling to? Right? So your job is to ask those questions. Right? And we have a couple of guiding questions that can help you. On a basic level, and I'm going to give you those in a couple of minutes in terms of this cheat sheet or whatever. But on a basic level, these questions come down to one question, which is, why? Tell me a little more about that. That kind of drawing out from them the why is very, very important. Because oftentimes entrepreneurs don't get asked the why. They get asked, so how? How are you going to do it? How's it going to work? Who are you going to go for? But asking the why is something that they really, really need. Right? And so in this case, what's wrong about the current world that you're trying to fix? If you had to boil down your venture to that one reason for existence, is it because you want a job? Is it because you want to supplement your income? Is it because you have these skills that you don't know how to use them? Is it because you want to change the world? Is it because you want to transform the way that people educate our people? Is it because you think that there are rampant problems of poverty and neglect that aren't being dealt with and we can deal with them? Right? That why is very important here. And any questions that help push them in that direction are crucial.
Are you presupposing that there's a right answer there?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Because what if they say, I just want to make a gazillion dollars?
Well, that's the question.
Okay.
But for them to be able to articulate it, and then based upon that go into this is crucial. And of course there are no right answers. No one that comes into this program is going to say just the gazillion dollars thing, because that's what they were pre-screened for, right?
Yeah.
We pre-screen them on 3 different personality characteristics. The first one is perseverance. That is, they're just not going to give up. The second one is duty. That is, that they have a sense of obligation to their community, and because of that, no one's going to say, I just want to make a ton of money, right? They might say, you know what, I want to make some money, but I really want to impact the world. and they'll have to figure out how to compromise between the two. Most of them are going to come out on the impact the world side as opposed to making the money side. That's why they're here, right? And then the third one is their interpersonal skill. So everyone here should be savvy enough to be able to maintain a relationship, to not, be very rude and abrasive, although entrepreneurs can be that too, so that kind of stuff. And only the last part, those are the personality characteristics, only one element had to do with their project, right? Whether it was a good idea. And the good idea part, projects change and rearrange, right? When the magazine started, no one knew that Present Tense was going to be a program that helps communities foment social innovation. It adapts. If you have the right people in place and you're working with people that believe in changing something, then things emerge. So that flexibility is also important. And if you don't feel satisfied by their answer, you can tell them that. You can say, I just don't think it's a good answer. It's okay. You should hear from someone, Yeah. So the second part, this is the second deliverable. So they're going to do that first deliverable the first month. This is the deliverable they're going to be working on in February. This has to do with scanning. Environmental scanning, understanding strategic context. There are tons of tools that can be used for this, right? You can be looking for substitutes. You can be looking for. We have something called the 4 C's method, which helps break things down into a certain spectrum, right? Nothing is solid here. It's a spectrum of options. It's competitors, comparatives, complements, and collaboratives, which means that these are ventures starting here that are addressing the same target market with the same value proposition, that are addressing the different target market with the same value proposition, and I'll explain what this means in a second to you, that are addressing the same target market with a different value proposition, that are addressing different markets with different value propositions, but share the same social bottom line. And what that means is that across the field, what we're trying to do is get them to find people who are doing similar things. Why? Because they can learn a ton from them. And oftentimes an entrepreneur comes from one of two perspectives. They either come from the perspective of, no one's doing what I'm doing. I know exactly what I need to do, and nobody's doing what I'm doing, and so I can't learn from anyone. I just need to figure it out, right? Or they're coming from the perspective of, everyone's trying to do this, everyone's doing it, and I'm overwhelmed because I don't really know what to do, right? And so they're going to be somewhere in that spectrum, and what you hopefully will help them do, what we're going to hopefully help them by giving them tools, and you'll help them do by categorizing and helping them figure it out, is where to put them. That is, are there other people out there that are trying to do the same exact thing to the same exact market? Are there other people out there that are trying to do the same thing but to different people? Are there other people out there that are trying to do different things to the same people that they can complement one another, like shoes and socks or pretzels and beer? Or are there other people out there that are trying to have the same effect in the world that they can work with even if there are different types of organizations? Right? So the narrative that we use in order to explain this is the 12 spies. Anyone here know the story of the 12 spies? Leaving Egypt and entering the Promised Land. There were these 12, you know it?
Yeah.
You want to tell us?
The Jews were about to go to Promised Land, and they sent in 12 spies to see what it was like, and 10 of the 12 spies said it was a crazy place and they'll never be able to take it over, and 2 spies said that they're wrong, and that it's a great place, Israel's a great land, and you will be able to, God will be with you, that kind of thing. And then the Jews sided with 10 spies, and it was really bad.
So why do we use that narrative? Because oftentimes people think that a strategic plan is a strategic plan. And they don't pay attention to the fact that it's completely subjective, right? And so what we're trying to tell them is that you can look at the same map of your strategic environment, you can look at the same type of array of other organizations, and just depending on how you look at it, depending on the perspective, you can change the opportunities that exist in the market. And so what we try to do is work with them to figure out how they can pivot a little bit. Pivoting is a word that's being used more and more now in the kind of lean startup school, which what it means is change a little bit your offering, change a little bit your target market.